For example, the latest figures showed that there was over 600,000 net immigrants into the United Kingdom. But if you look at the gross figure, that is the amount of people who came in overall, before you subtract the people who left, it was over 1 million. Now, that is simply completely and utterly unsustainable. That in itself could collapse the country. That those levels of immigration could collapse the country within the next 5 years. If that's repeated every year for 5 years, there's no way any part of the United Kingdom is going to be able to cope with that. Everything is going to collapse. And so you have to look at our politicians and think, what on earth are they doing and whose agenda are they following? And that's a real big thing. And as I say, it's not the immigration situation can be solved when we solve the political problem, which is the ideology and the funding that is driving our politicians of all sides to promote this national suicide, whether they're Tory, Labour, or, well, especially SNP and Greens, because they're just idiots. They're just idiots. Like, let's all just have more immigration in Scotland. You know, they're just like, no, shut up. You're not even part of the equation because you're just an idiot. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the people who are running the country, which is Tories and Labour, and we're trying to ask, why are they not taking charge of this? Why are they allowing this in? What's the ideology behind it? And who are the people who are promoting it? And what are we going to have to do to stop them coming in? Meanwhile, the SNP and Greens will just be sitting there talking rubbish as always, just because they don't know any better, the SNP and Green politicians. They do want to collapse the country. But we're looking to people like the Tories and Labour who can perhaps still have some kind of degree of control over things and some kind of degree of sensibility. But we're not even seeing that. We're not even seeing them able to exercise what they need to do. And what do they need to do? We spoke about it last time on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I put all of that into words in an article which I put up here. And let's just quickly run through that because it can't be said enough. The first thing that needs to be done is that we have to clear the legal path so that we can do what's physically necessary. And the legal path means that the first thing we have to do is to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And then the second thing that we need to do is we need to rewrite certain elements of the UK's Human Rights Act, because the UK Human Rights Act is a direct mirror, a direct copy of the ECHR, and it's basically written the ECHR words into British law. But we do need to rewrite certain elements of that. But we can't rewrite certain elements of that until we've actually left the ECHR, because the ECHR won't allow us to rewrite certain elements of that. So once we've rewritten certain elements of that where necessary, and indeed perhaps even built upon elements of it, such as strengthening the free speech and freedom of assembly rights, once we've done that, then we will be then free to create a new law specifically, which is a qualification for UK Asylum Act, which will, where necessary, disapply certain elements of the Human Rights Act in certain specific cases where that is necessary to do, so that you'll be free to deport people. You'll be free to set up a tanker outside Dover where you process everybody without allowing them onto the land. You'll be free to send them back. And in all of this, it shouldn't really be necessary to even leave the UN Refugee Convention. All we need to do is adjust elements of it in our own domestic law, where the UN Convention doesn't have any legal force in the United Kingdom, but we are a member of it internationally, but it doesn't have any legal force. But we can stay a member of it, but just ensure that where necessary we add elements to it in order to reflect our particular circumstances. For example, we could say that you're not entitled to claim asylum if we deem you to be an economic migrant. But that will have to be written into law, because at the moment we are required just to accept everybody who claims asylum under the UN Convention. But we can add to it and say, well, we're actually going to add our own requirements. Now, that might cause a fight with the UN, but so be it. We have to press on, because times they are a-changing. And the UN Convention was written back in 1951, and it was intended to deal with the fallout from World War II. Well, that's a long time ago now, and the world has changed in so many ways. Then we need to abolish legal aid for all immigration and asylum cases, and we need to essentially defund that massive industry. And then we need to abolish the right of appeal in asylum cases. And it's not even required under international law, the right of appeal. But Britain, soft touch Britain, added it back in 1993. And then once you have the legal ability, then you can do what's necessary physically, which will include disbanding the Home Office Immigration Department, which is failing miserably to deal with this, and contract it out to a private corporation that can do it for financial incentive. And then once you've done that, well, the sky's the limit. You build up the border force, you stop boats in the channel, you physically return them to France, etc., etc. And of course, certain elements will scream blue murder. But if you are prepared for the fight, if you're a politician with backbone, then you just have to do it. And of course, we all know we have no such politicians at the moment in the main parties. So it's our job to build up that mentality. And I added a little bit there, which I'll just read out. Make no mistake, this is a revolution of the mind, because to call into question, let alone upend, the UN Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights is a direct attack on the globalist internationalist order which was established after World War II in the West. And these conventions are central to that post-war international settlement. And they're of a piece with the entire settlement post-war which the modern world is constructed upon. And so, therefore, to throw them off will be a revolutionary act, which, as I've said here, may not occur until other societal changes converge to overturn that settlement, until enough people see that the post-World War II settlement is not working in this nation's favour. Then it has to get thrown off. And when it gets thrown off, that is a complete revolution of the spirit and of the mind, which will cause a peaceful democratic revolution in society. But that's what we're dealing with here. It's overturning it all. It is equivalent to saying the circumstances in which the modern world was created after World War II no longer apply. We must now forge a new direction. But the good news is that more and more people are questioning how we got into this situation and why our world is the way it is. So we seem to be moving in this direction. We seem to be moving in this direction. And I do believe that times are changing. But I also feel that there's dangers. I think that the system understands that it's changing and it's going to start clamping down hard, especially on freedom of speech and on freedom of me to even say things like what I've just said in the last few minutes, which the system doesn't want to be heard.